Okay, it is officially time to do the my thoughts on Final Fantasy 15. Um, so sorry that there isn't really any audio except for my voice with the gameplay, but it was streamed. I wasn't really planning on using this as the original footage, but it just kind of worked out easier this way. So yeah. So I'm not going to go super into it. I will say that they definitely could have done better, but I would not say it was horrible. I would say that it was very fun. I liked the combat. That I would have made some changes to it, but I did like it in general. The story was good, but in my opinion, could have been better. And just all around, I feel like the game was good, but could have been so much more and could have been great. Like when I started playing and everything, and I did some research, I saw that a lot of like other YouTubers and so on and so forth were saying things of like how this game could have been so much more and everything. Originally, I was thinking, okay, that's just critics being critics and just saying things or some things that are just like not exactly extensions of the truth or false, but at the same time, it's kind of over exaggerating something. But no, it was actually pretty true. Um, which is kind of unfortunate. I did really love the game. I would definitely continue to keep playing it. I guarantee I'll play it every now and then. Whenever I'm trying to beat like the random missions and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it does annoy me that like some of these things didn't come into fruition. I like the way that the game started, where you're on your journey. You had to push the car, you had to get repairs, and it started you off on saying, "Okay, there are quests that you need to get done." I thought that was good, but I would not exactly say that your friends like that. Something that it did give off is that the fact that you know that you're all lifetime friends, such as each one of them they didn't do like a major exploration. They talked as if they were already familiar with us, which wouldn't normally happen in most games. Even if you knew someone for a while, it would still explain who this person is, what they did, why they're important, and so on and so forth. When in this, it was like, these are your friends, they also happen to be knights, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. But there were some things that I did not very much like in terms of your friends, such as we had a gunslinger, a bruiser, and a knife thrower slash spear holder. So, I would say that the classes and gun things were just a bit iffy. I enjoyed like the bruiser idea, the fact that he could get a shield. I wasn't too fond of the weapon options in general. Very very scarce. Like there were not very many weapons whatsoever, except for you as the main character. Which I agree that's like I should have the most weapons, but like most of them were weapons that I found in like the tombs. Now I understand that they were good weapons and everything, but for the most part there wasn't any like other exploration weapons. And I really thought like that could have been better. Um, as I was saying earlier, I did not exactly like the team comp. I like the idea of the tank. I like the gunslinger slash ranged person, but I don't really think that we needed two. I would have preferred Ignis to continue to still be like a DPS kind of person, but to maybe have a bit more of a sway in things, such as I would prefer it if he was a mage, like someone who actually used magic in this world, and it wasn't only, oh, there's the king's power, and then there's the magic that you can put in a bottle, which was just like these little containers of magic that you could get, and that was it. I wish that there was more to it than just that. Like I thought it was still good, but it could have used a bit more there. I would have preferred him to be a mage and for him to potentially have a bit more options. Now, I did like the way that you could kind of, I'm going to say micromanage the battlefield, but that really it's not fully what that is. Where you could like use abilities for each of your people. I did not like the fact that there were only 3 of these, and that you could only have 3 at all times. Now, I understand that, yes, you could unlock more, which I did do, but at the same time, it was kind of stupid how there were only 3 that I could pick from at a time. Like, how difficult could it have been to simply make another option there? Like, there's a down area that isn't utilized at all. Even if you said, oh, Prompto, so because of that, I have 3 abilities on Prompto, I should be able to go 3 times to the right and choose any of those 3 abilities on Prompto. Like, if I wanted to take a picture of the situation, I should be able to take a picture of the situation. If I think I need damage, then I should be able to just have it as damage. Now, I know I could just pause the game and swap over to that, but I feel like that's just an unnecessary thing that I should not have to pause in the middle of a fight to swap over. I feel like it'd be a lot better if they just said, oh, look, you can use any of the abilities you unlock. Like, you unlocked them for a reason. It wasn't just so you could say you have them. You unlocked them to use them. So let me utilize them. How about that? So that in itself was kind of annoying and was pretty disappointing. I still would have liked to have like a mage / support person be Ignis, because he's even like the strategist and everything. If they had him be more along the lines of being like a mage, I think that would be pretty cool. Like, he'd have a special ability that allowed him to shield all allies. Like, he did have an ability where like everyone would pull back from a fight and then they'd have like a buff because of it. So you can have him do that, but you can't make him a mage and have him just give everyone around him a shield or something along that line. Or instead of making him, like, keep him the mage and then have him have like a meteor ability or something like that. I think that would have really improved the team, to be completely honest, and I think that would have been just nicer and cooler in general. Besides that, I was okay with the way that went. Another thing was like the weapons, such as they didn't really, as I kind of touched upon it before, where there wasn't really that many weapons in general. So I would have liked to see more weapons for each person to use in both their secondary and primary slot. But at the same time, I thought it was okay, the amount that they had, but still would have liked it for them to be more. But not just with that, but with your arms. Now, I thought it was really cool, but they didn't really force you to go get them. Like, in the story, you would have gotten like 4 of the 9, even after I beat the game, spending hours upon hours of just exploring and going to all these different tombs. I never did get like the other weapons. There were still a few that I do not have, and I don't understand like where I can even get them, and just the fact that it allows me to beat the game without getting them. Like, I can understand like where I'm currently at, where I only need like 2 or 3 more to be acceptable if I actually like beat the game and that's how many I had left. But the fact that I could only, like, the game itself only has like, you get 4? Really? Like, that should be more. And I understand that, yes, because I have these weapons, they would be kind of overpowered if I could utilize them without any penalty whatsoever. But how about instead it uses my magic points, not my health bar? Like, I understand that, yes, I can just refill my magic points by dashing away, and then and like the same thing, how I can refill my health bar by using potions. But at the same time, like, either way, it's a solution that one is more annoying than the other. You want to know what the one that's more annoying is? Using my health bar. The fact that I need to spam potions to stay alive? Really? Is that a good idea? I don't think it is. As I said, like, I understand that, yes, the weapons would be overpowered, to use them, but at the same time, so I would have preferred to be overpowered and had a slight inconvenience every now and then of having to dash away and to blink towards onto something to instantly refill my MP over to spam potions and things along that line. Especially because if I did not do what I did of like exploring the other areas and gaining a whole lot of money by doing side quests, I don't understand how I would have beat the story just as is. Like if I just followed the story, the game becomes a heck of a lot shorter. And like my one friend was saying, there's like 100+ hours besides the, or maybe including, I don't remember which one he said, either besides or including the main story. And like I agree, I spent so many hours just doing all these random things, but just the main story itself was really not that long. Like I understand that a lot of really good story games now are like 16 hours, but I would say that this one was like if you were actually just rushing and trying to get through everything, it would only be like 8 or 10 at max. He said like if you're actually like rushing, then you could definitely get it in a pretty reasonable time. So there is that, but just it's kind of annoying in that sense. And not only that, but the story missions, I think that they should have been based off of your level. Now, I'm not saying that they should always stay at a permanent higher level than you, but the story missions themselves, by the time I went over to them, I was like level 60. These missions were level 30. Yeah, I did have a few problems where I did take a good amount of damage, but that's because they purposely had a super buffed out of its mind enemy in an area that way you would fear it and you'd specifically try to avoid it, which is what I did anyway because like that was the point of it. And like it was just really annoying of the fact how I ran through everything. And like one of the few legit bosses of the game, I would say, was like I don't consider the gods to be fully a boss, not gonna lie. I think that they are a boss, but they really like they didn't, none of the bosses in themselves really had any boss mechanics, which was annoying in itself. But yeah, I'm kind of touching on this now instead. But the only boss that I like thought was like a true 100% boss fight besides the very final boss was when you fought her brother. Like why can I not think of her name? Basically, the main girl's brother. When you fight him after he kind of was like half resurrected and half demon form, that wasn't a breeze, but it was very simple. Like I didn't have to use half the potions. When I originally, way back when the game first came out, I watched a playthrough of it, and this dude struggled because he just went straight to the story and went through the entire story, and he spent hours, like literally like an hour overall fighting him because he just had to slowly chip away and chip away and chip away and use a potion, and he almost ran out of potions and things along that line because he was like a lower level than where he really not exactly should have been at that point. But yeah, like they don't encourage you to be a higher level, and they make you overpowered if you do. Now, I understand that does kind of make the story itself kind of easier, especially if you do all the like 100 hours worth of gameplay before going in. You can definitely just run through everything. But at the exact same time, I think that it would have been a more enjoyable and more competitive and fun experience if the story cannot reach like 10 levels beneath where you are. Now, like 10 levels is still a good amount to where you aren't going to be completely overpowered, but you are going to still be strong. And you'd be able to see that kind of difference between me being 30 levels up and it being 10 levels down. Like, that's something that I really think that they should have done. Now, also what I was saying where, like, the boss fights. Such as, the boss fights I would say is Titan, Leviathan, and, like, the final boss, and then when you fight her brother. That was really it, in my opinion. I did do like one or two other sort of boss fights, but it really, like, they didn't even like really feel like the one dude who was in the big machine when you had to fight the first ever area when you had the commander on your squad. He was a stupid boss in general. Like that one was sort of done, but I'm gonna go through each one. Like these should have had mechanics. Like that boss, I think could be the only one that really doesn't need any major mechanic. But I would have put something along the line of, oh, instead of just dodging his abilities, let's make him jump backwards and activate a sort of shield that we need to hit like a specific part of his body. Or you just need to do a specific thing in the fight that knocks out the shield, or just something along that line. And then that specific mechanic would be repeated every time that you take down a castle. Now, or well, not exactly a castle, every time you take down a base, because I did take down a reasonable amount of bases, and you did have to fight one other of those really big guys, but he, yet again, like, well, he wasn't that big of a deal. But then, like, that is the only one that I would have been completely fine with there being, like, no mechanic at all. But when you fight Titan, the only thing that comes up is, like, quick time events, which I wouldn't really call that a mechanic of the fight unless it's something that happens repeatedly. But yeah, like, you go into super form for the first time and beat the heck out of all the dudes that are trying to, like, pin down Titan. But that really wasn't a mechanic either. That was just you hitting those other guys to prevent them from capturing Titan. Like, there really should have been a bit more to it. I understand that I would say Titan had the most mechanics of it all, because at least when you fought him, you did things with his fists, how you were capable of, like, reflecting the hits and dodging and dashing around. But I would have had, like, special events where you could have maybe had, like, the crystals fall onto him doing bonus damage, and just things like that were kind of forced in there. And even, like, showing a health bar to be more prominent would have been a nice touch, instead of just a small health bar, like, over him in general and over his hands. Maybe a health bar at the top of the screen, like, other boss fights, to say, this is a boss fight, this is something important, this is something that you should be happy, I guess, playing, or something along that line. And, you just didn't really get that feel at all from it, which is kind of annoying in itself. But just, yeah, and, like, they could have done that there and had, like, marks in his health that, like, oh, at this mark he'll do this, and at this mark he'll do that, and things like that will happen of just mechanics. Then, like, the Leviathan wasn't any of that. Like, the Leviathan was dash around and jump on the Leviathan's face every now and then go into ultimate Super Saiyan form and just wreck them. Like, not trying to say the ultimate Super Saiyan form wasn't a bad idea. It was so much fun to do, and it was a blast to actually be a part of when you're just flying around shooting your blades and everything at them constantly. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time, like, it's overpowered. Like, you virtually take no damage because you're just dashing around the place. You're capable of just literally never-ending shooting no matter what. Like, the blades respawn instantly, and they always explode upon hitting the enemy. So it was a bit overpowered. And, like, as I said, like, there was no mechanics. Like, I would have had a mechanic where, yeah, I understood the Leviathan could break the buildings here and there, but I would have had a mechanic where you, like, purposely had Leviathan crash into a building to do damage to it. Like, that would have been cool. That would have been awesome. But no, you didn't have that. And then even with, like, the dude at the very end, when he was in demon form, I would have actually made him, like, invulnerable for short bursts, and then you'd only be able to attack him whenever his subconscious was, like, reacting, something like that. And then finally, like, the demon will 100% take over, and because of that, he won't be invulnerable, but he'll have, like, a major armor and magic, or, like, major armor. And then because there were, like, the machines around you, you'd have to activate the machine while he's near it. And then it would cause, like, a time for the demon to weaken, and you'd be able to attack him for, like, 10 seconds and then redo it, and then something along that line. And then even Ardyn at the very end, like, well, again, okay, you did also fight Ifrit, and I would say that he had the most mechanics, but even then they really weren't that big of mechanics. They were okay. I'm not going to lie, I kind of forgot about him. But I was talking about Ardyn, so I'm going to keep talking about Ardyn, where you just fight him. Like, the only mechanic is, oh, when he starts dashing around, start blocking, because that means that he's about to do, like, an instant hit on you that, unless you're blocking, you will get hit by it, because I tried dodging, and that didn't work. And that was it. Like, after you did that enough times where he just spammed that dashing around thing, so basically the entire fight was, oh, block. Oh, because of that you blocked his attack, now smack him 5 times. Oh, he starts dashing around, block. And you just repeatedly did that over and over and over again. Now, to be truthful, it really didn't seem repetitive. Like, it was sort of repetitive, but it still was kind of fun at the same time, so I'll give him that. But, like, that's not that much of a mechanic. And then after that, you just go into Super Saiyan form, or Super Saiyan form, and just start destroying him. And there's nothing he can do about it. You literally just wreck the heck out of him. But then, yeah, like, when you're fighting Ifrit, there are multiple stages to that fight. At first, you fight him when he's on the throne chair thing, where really all it is run up, hit him. Oh, you can see that the fire is starting to build up, back away. The fire goes out, run up, hit him. That's a mechanic that I think, like, that's something that would have been nice for other bosses, but really he's the only one that had a mechanic like that. You do that, and then like, he goes into his other form. He dodges the heck out of the cool Bahamut's ult, and then you damage him again. And then, what's it called? And then, like, you have to repeatedly fight him in midair and do the quick time events. Now, yeah, I understand that there were quick time events for the other guys too, but his quick time events really stood out the most. They really seemed the coolest, not just because of, like, what you were doing in the quick time event, but honestly, mostly because of the fact that he did it multiple times. The other person's quick time events were like, oh, let me do this one time. Oh, I won. For him, it was like, oh, wait, I did that first time. It did a fourth of his HP. It's almost like that's an actually good idea for it not to just be a one-time thing. But even then, he could have had more mechanics to him. Really, it was just walk up to him when there's fire going, hit him, walk away, and then just repeatedly hit him over and over and over again until he decides to do a quick time event, where then you just beat the quick time event and you're good. I do think that those really aren't that impressive game mechanics, or at least boss mechanics anyway. What else could I say? Just the way that they handled certain things kind of annoyed me. Were like the same old guys would be constantly giving you more and more quests, and they were always just getting slightly more difficult, which is understandable, but they were also getting pretty annoying. I do like the fact that you did need to, like, subtly, if you wanted to, you didn't have to, like, do the story, and you could just go off doing your own thing, which I thought was nice. But I did think that it did really mess with the pacing. It really messed with the pacing for the first while of the game, because you'd think that after a person just lost their homeland and their dad just died, because that technically happened like a couple days after he left the capital. And then when we finally did all those missions, which I did, like, do random missions there too, which that it doesn't really mess up the pacing. But you think that after a person's homeland is literally destroyed, that he'd want to get a move on, and he'd want to try and go as fast as he physically can to continue. But for me, I was like, nah, I want to explore, I want to do all these side quests, I want to do all these other things, where, like, it does not fit the pacing of the game at all. It slows it down to a halt when, like, in your character's head, you should be going at Mach 10. If you do that, where you slow something down to that much, it's going to cause some problems. And, like, in my opinion, it sort of did. Now, another thing is, I understand that it's a Final Fantasy game. And for the most part, I prefer games that have what I'm going to call a nice ending, where you live, where you do not die, where you and all your loved ones do not die. Now, I understand that, yes, like, his 3 main friends lived, but he dies, his girlfriend dies, his dad dies, and I'm fine with his dad dying. I'm okay with the girlfriend dying, but I would have preferred if she lived. Slash wife. I'm fiance. But I think it was kind of stupid of the fact that he died. Now, honestly, if it was a story mode only game, which I understand that recently just now got a multiplayer, and for the most part you're just like, it is a story mode only game. I don't consider a game that has that many MMO mechanics in it to be a story mode only game. Not gonna lie, like, you can spend so much of this game not doing the story. Now, think it is a good idea for a game creator to have alternate options to not force you to do the story and that is it. But I do not think that you should have more things to explore than actual story, especially when you beat the game, you can't just explore. Like, I beat the game and my only option was go back to an old saved file or hit like New Game Plus. And New Game Plus resets the story. Like, I do not like that. I wish that instead I was capable of just going into the game after I already beat the final boss and then deciding to explore. Like, that would have been a much better idea. And then it kept me at my current progress. I'm actually pretty annoyed that everything that I worked so hard for is gone. Such as my hunter rank was like 3 or 4 before, where like the max was 5, so that's pretty high. Where now it's 1. And I don't have over half of the map unlocked, when before I had the entire thing unlocked and I was exploring every bit of it, and I've done most of the dungeons in it and all these other things where I'm just like, but I did so much and you took it all away from me. Like, that is not a good idea. So like the fact that I die at the end, it kind of annoys me there, because yes, it is a story mode only game, and as I said, I'm fine with that with a story mode only game, but the fact that now that I have to restart the game, like, if they would have just had me live there, all that it would have been was, oh, you get to now explore or free roam your area because you just lived. Good. Now I can walk around and do all these other things. Now, other things that I did like how you could make the magic in a bottle. If they didn't have any magic at all, I would have been annoyed. The fact that you could combine the magic with other ingredients and things to to like have a bigger effect is really cool. I like the fact that each of your team did have like their own abilities, and how if you did certain type of attacks at certain times, your friends would like jump into the attack and have a bigger effect. I thought that was pretty cool. The fact that your friends at least sort of change along the journey, and I'm not just talking about like emotionally with all the emotional shit. The fact that like Ignis actually lost his sight, and because of that, I don't necessarily like the fact that you lose the capability of doing certain abilities at all. I still would have had them, but maybe like changed them somewhat. Like, instead of him doing the thing earlier where he like throws knives at everyone, instead he'll just do like a shotgun effect, where he'll hold a lot of knives at once and just throw them in a scattered area around him, and every person that he hits, you're capable of blinking to and hitting, like it was before, but it won't be as organized. And like, he can still rally a team and do those other things, but no, once he loses his eyesight, the only thing he can do is throw a grenade. Oh boy. And he basically just uses the force to throw the grenade. He's like, oh, I sent someone there. Ha! So I like the fact that the abilities change, at least for Ignis. And I also like the whole ability point system, how you could do it in multiple different areas, how you could upgrade like how many items each person can hold, the fact that you can make it easier to get ability points in general, that you can get experience easier, that you can upgrade each individual person. I would have had it to be a bit more organized, not gonna lie. And I understand like you can sort of like, it was reasonably organized, but at the same time it was kind of annoying where like they'd each have like a good a solid aspect to them, but they'd kind of scatter in the aspect. All my English teachers, whenever they talk about my papers, in the sense that you would just you'd get random things for random people in there. Well, not exactly random. They'd stay to the topic, but they wouldn't really fit too well. I wish that instead they would have had each big topic be very, very specific, and maybe just had multiple big topics overall, or like more to them, such as have one for like just using your blades and so on and so forth. And another thing real quick that I want to add is the fact that the auto changer, the item that I had that caused me to change my change my weapon every time I blinked and so on and so forth, and leave behind like a shadow. That is a really cool item, but honestly, I'd rather have so many other things. Like any of the items that gave me HP would have been much more appreciated. Not going to lie. It could have been better. And what I would have done there instead is actually just make that something that you can get from doing AP. Now, I understand that, yes, people are going to want to turn that off, so give it an option to be turned off. Like, make it a fourth item that you are capable of holding, or only you are capable of holding that specific thing. I'd have, you have one like the theme. Each person was capable of holding 3 things if you upgraded it through ability points, but each person can only hold 1 just as is. I would have made that so you can hold 1 as is, and then you can also hold 1 specialty item that only works on you, such as Prompto had a camera strap that he was capable of holding, but I did I'm not gonna give that to him. Or like I don't know if Ignis or Gladius I don't think I had anything specific for them, but if I did have items specific for them, I wish that they'd have an extra slot for their specific themed item. That, in my opinion, would have been better than just, oh, they're allowed to, you have that specific 3 things, and you have to use one of these slots as the auto changer. Like, no. Especially when I have to use a ridiculous, okay, not ridiculous in the technically, but a very large amount of ability points to upgrade that in the first place. Because as I said before, it's really annoying where, like, if I just did the story on my own, I would not have had enough ability points to get nearly as many upgrades as I did through my playthrough. Like, you would not have gotten that many ability points. And yet again, like, if they just gave an exploration mode after you beat it, that would have been fine, but no, they didn't. They killed you. Where, like, that would have just been better, and like it would have just been nicer overall. And yeah, because of the fact that it takes up one of your themed items, and one of the items you're capable of holding, and it costs so much to get another slot. I thought that was a bit stupid. That could have been changed a bit. I thought that the story itself was really good. I thought the gameplay was really fun. The combat was a blast, not going to lie. The only thing that I loved going into Super Saiyan form and Ultimate Super Saiyan form was a blast, as I said before. Like, it was really fun. The thing that I thought was somewhat stupid, but I liked at the same time, was summons. I know that that's been something in like every single game, how there it is like a summon that you are capable of getting, or you're capable of getting like summons. But I thought this one was really kind of stupid. Like it seemed like it had a timer. Now, I'm not necessarily annoyed of the fact that it was a timer per se, but I'm just annoyed at the fact that you didn't really get to choose who you summoned, why you summoned them, what you would summon them. Like, yes, you choose what you summon in the games because you'd hit the button to summon them, but at the same time, like, it was annoying. It was stupid how it just randomly activated, or it seemed random when I'm pretty sure it just had a set time limit before you could use it again. Now, I'm not saying that I think I should have been able to use it every single fight, because that would have been kind of broken. But at the same time, I think that it would have been a lot better if they made that like the bottom option. Like, whenever you hold in L2, you had an option to your right, upward, and left, and that would be Gladius, Ignis, and Prompto's abilities, which I think they should have had all of the abilities in there. But, what do I know? I'm just an average player that, likes to come up with game ideas for fun, that personally works on them quite a bit, and would love to make them into an actual thing. Contact me. But it's just very annoying of just the fact that I couldn't do that summon. Like, I would have had the down option, like as I said, like when holding an L2, right, upward, left, I would make the down a summons. And I'd have it, yet again, I'd have it be all the options of the gods you'd have. I would have, Glacian, which you get super, like you get when you're already enough into the story where you can't turn around. I would have a Freet in there. I'd throw in Bahamut and all them. Like, I would put that down there, and then I would have it have a cooldown, and I can understand that cooldown could be pretty reasonably large, like 20 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that, where you wouldn't be able to use that whether you're out or in of combat at all. And I understand that, yes, maybe if each individual one had its own cooldown, I think that'd be a bit stupid. But something that you could do is make the cooldown individually be 15 minutes. But every time you use a summons, all of your summons automatically have a 5-minute cooldown no matter what. Meaning that you'd have to wait 5 minutes between each fight if you really wanted to, like, use a summon for it. But then, because the cooldown for that specific one is 15 minutes, like, let's say I had the God of Lightning and Titan. I had those two. So because of that, I used Titan's ability. Now, I'd have to wait 15 minutes before I could use that again, but I'd only have to wait 5 minutes to use the Lightning dudes, the Tempest. And after those 5 minutes go by, then I'd have 10 minutes left on Titan, and I'd only have 5 minutes, or 15 minutes, or 0 minutes, oh my goodness, left on Tempest, and then I'd use Tempest's ability, and then I'd have 15 minutes left on Tempest, and I'd only have 5 minutes left on Titan, because, like, that would be shortened, throughout the time. And just like that, I think would have been a lot more fun for me to be able to choose what god I want and when I want to use it, not based off of like, oh, I'm fighting some random enemy and the god wants to be summoned now. And yeah, I know you can ignore the god and then you can use it like the next fight and it'll start to activate the next fight too. But it's kind of annoying of just like the fact that that's the way it works. It really should not be working that way. Now, I do like the fact that they had summons in very specific areas, like when to get the guys off the train for Bahamut at the very end when you're fighting both the King Behemoth, which was really cool, and Ifrit. I do like the fact that there were summons there. It's automatically set in the game. That was a good idea, but I do not like the fact that I could not control them in general. I think that was really everything that I had to talk about. I talked like the lack of weapons. The story itself was good, but could have been organized better. The pacing was really bad because of the fact that you could explore halfway through the game. The game itself was actually pretty small, except for all the extra things you're capable of doing, and yet they don't allow you to just go out and do those extra things as they are. Or like after you beat the story, you just have to start a new game, or not beat the story at all. The story itself could have been more difficult because, they should have made it, like, just put the algorithm that the enemy would be a higher level if you were a higher level. That's not a hard thing to do. There are so many different games that have that in. So, like, not something difficult or groundbreaking at all. The summons thing, the using abilities from different enemies, the fact that Ignis should have been a mage. He should have been a mage. I don't care who has to argue this point. He should have been a mage. I would have liked if I had an opportunity to explore after the time skip. Like explore how everywhere was just night. You didn't really have that option at all, which I can understand why, but at the same time, I think it would have been kind of cool if after you beat the game, you're capable of having an option of changing the time period. Like changing the time, and you could beat the time period when it's nothing but darkness, and you can beat the time period when it's nothing but light. And, that's something that wouldn't really fit with an actual capability in real life, which, it's a magical world. So, but then at the same time, it would just be something that'd be kind of cool to do in the game. But yeah, like I will have to agree that it really was not what I would put a Final Fantasy 15 standards to be. To be completely honest, like if I was super into the series before I played, I would have been like Final Fantasy should have been a lot, like 15 should have been better than it was. I still think that it was a really good game. The graphics and everything was really good. The combat was okay. It was really fun in some cases and kind of annoying in others because all of the weapons except for the first ever one you get have a very similar heavy weapon feel to it. For the most part, like there is that one isn't. I would have changed the mechanic behind the heavy weapon. I would have changed the AP a little bit, but not a lot. I would have. There are like a lot of minor changes, a few big changes, but yeah. Overall, I would still give the game like a 7 out of 10. Because as I said, like I did enjoy the combat, even though it could have been better. I did enjoy the story, but it could have been better. I loved exploring around and doing all those side missions. I hate the fact that I lost a lot of my, well, sort of like losing my progress because I beat the game. Oh, yeah, losing progress because you beat a game. That's a good idea. Now, yeah, I understand it kept my level, but it didn't keep anything besides my level and the items I had. And even to be truthful, I think it changed some of the items. But, yeah, like, there are a lot of good minor changes, but I did have a fun time. The story was still good. And, just all around, it was a good game. Could have been so much better than it was, though. Like, honestly, if I was Square Enix, I would not trying to toot my own horn, but I'd like see this video and I'd see the other videos that do like my thoughts and things like that a lot better than I do because I am not as professional about it, which you can kind of tell. But and I would see that, and I'd make Final Fantasy 16, which I know they're like already started. I think they did not like a trailer, but they said that like they showed Final Fantasy 16 somewhere. I'm not 100% sure about that. I could be wrong. It could just be leaked information that shouldn't have been seen yet. But then they should try to implement this into the next game, being like, oh, so yeah, that was a bad idea there. Let's do this instead. And then, try to do their own thing too. It is still their game. They should still try to like do what they want necessarily with it. But at the same time, it would have been a bit better, in my opinion, if they just did a lot of these other changes. So, yeah, I am going to officially say thank you all very much for watching. But if you agree or disagree with anything that I have said, please leave a comment down below. I will gladly get back to you as soon as possible. If you are Square Enix, contact me. If you are any game company, ever, I do not care. Please contact me. I'm lonely. I need it. I got game ideas. I got you. Whatever you need, baby. I got you. That was cringy. That was pure cringe. Never will I ever do that again. But yeah, so thank you all very much for watching, and I'm going to bid you all adieu. Goodbye.